Whoa, Dad, go, Dad.
That's right. Welcome to Whoa Dad, Go Dad. My name's Dave Momper. I'm your host. This is a fatherhood podcast for new dads and soon-to-be dads. I'm a new dad myself, and I'm asking every day, great dads, what does it take? What does it truly take to take on the ultimate role? All right, let's get to it. Mr. Wylie Nelson, welcome to Whoa Dad, Go Dad. Great to be with you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Dev.
How did your weekend go? Let's just tell the listeners right off the bat what it's like to be a dad in your life.
No, it's great. Kids are in so many different activities. This past weekend, they're really getting into skiing. They skied their first ski race, the Soda Pop Slalom in Steamboat Springs, which is like a free, very entry level thing. They ran the course a couple times. Then we ran another one. Skied against Dad. I let him beat me, but I didn't have to try that hard to let him beat me. They were going pretty quick. I got him to ski Rolex, which is pretty nasty black diamond in Steamboat. I think her branding, they have to call it like the king of black diamonds. So the kids love it. And then it was a lot of sledding, outdoor time. There's never a dull moment with them. They're just so active and bouncing off the walls. It's generally fun to see, but sometimes it's really exhausting, and sometimes it's and I don't know. I don't want to say annoying is the right word, but you're like, just calm, just chill out for a minute. So, but generally,
So you got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old just tearing up the mountain. And knowing what I know about you, that's got to be a treat to get them on the slopes with you and see them just kick butt and almost outpace you.
They got a ways to go, but they're on pace for that. They're better skiers than I was at their age, and pretty fearless. They've gone back and struggled on some runs, and then gone back and done them again. Great video. My daughter started the year with a very, very bad crash. She didn't know how to stop on ice or turn on ice, and so she just straight lined 200 yards of a run. Just ski patrol, sled, all that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Dad was chasing, couldn't catch her. I thought she broke her arm. She thought she broke her arm. She'd have told me she was only broke her arm. I would have been like, deal. It was a really bad crash. Rode down the sled. Mom loved that. And then about a month later, she went back and skied that run in better conditions. And I have a video of her telling the run she owns it. No crashes, just awesome to see, overcoming that adversity. And so it's a lot of fun.
And lessons of resilience via the ski slopes is
beautiful. Yeah. I think it's a good one. I think, you're on your own, really, right? Somebody has to get you up there and kind of teach you and show you the ropes, but you got to make the turns. And if you crash, then, at some point in time, you got to pick yourself up, and you got to be able to deal with the cold or being too warm. So try to make them carry their skis and stuff like that. Occasionally I help, but it's a lot of you do this, this is you.
So let's give our listeners a little context about our history. We met after college through a high school friend, mutual friend of ours named Marshall Dines, a great father in the mix as well. And then what I love most about our history, amongst many things, by the way, but is we had a charitable event that we threw 6 years in a row.
It might have only been it felt like longer. I want to tell myself decade, but there's probably some exaggeration in that.
Raising money for the National Breast Cancer Foundation was our beneficiary. Slide for a Cure, which is really an excuse to have a slip and slide in a park and a barbecue and a party in the summer.
Giant slip and slide, right? 20 foot wide, 100 foot long. that stuff's popped up, right? We talked about that. You see it everywhere now. People are actually like, um, maybe they took the baton and they're running with it.
Yeah, trendsetters. We were slip and slide trendsetters.
We
Mac,
were.
we really were. And then a couple ski trips together. I was thinking about spending our 30th birthday in Chicago.
That was a good time.
Yeah. I've been to Mexico for for Marshall's wedding. So we've got a good amount of history. And for the listeners out there, give us a little bit of a perspective on how you see the world professionally. I know you're in limbo right now, but for the past 5 years, maybe 10 years, what's been your purview on the world and how you spend your professional time?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of fell backwards into like telecommunications and internet infrastructure. So, I've done a lot of that in the development phase, developing companies and developing infrastructure, which is pretty entrepreneurial, pretty global. It's taken me all over the place and worked with a lot of different people. And so I think I really expanded my worldview. Um, it's always been kind of a hardworking growth mechanism, which fits me well. I like to, you know, work hard, be pretty industrious, work on things that are interesting and going somewhere. And uh, definitely not somebody who just kind of like sits idle. And I think it probably translates a lot into how I am as a dad and the legendary kids I want to raise, right? I want people who go out and help shape the world. They don't have to make a huge dent in the universe or whatever Steve Jobs or some other Silicon Valley tools statement is, but like, don't, you know, bend your reality to what you want it to be, not the other way around.
See. Well, that's a perfect timing or segue to this question I prompted you with as we were setting things up together, which was, what does it mean to be a legendary father? And you had replied, raising good humans, well equipped to become legends themselves. So well equipped. I mean, what's the list of the top 3 things? Maybe there's a 20. What
No.
so what are you as a dad, if you're being really intentional in stewarding them and equipping them with resilience and other factors, what
Yeah,
are what are your top 3, top 5 that you feel like you want to
I don't
bestow?
know, probably list 50, like,
Fair.
yeah, yeah. I had to, that's a big statement, right? Like if you could dream it up and diagram and be like, I'm going to call the perfect play for my kids to go run for the rest of their lives. You know, they'd be strong, independent, but kind and courteous and well-mannered, um, and well-behaved, but also risk takers that, can buck the trend and go against the norms. And um, I think it's a really fine balance. I think that's one of the more challenging things, for me thinking about like how you want to raise kids is like, you don't want cream puffs that just get stomped on by the world. But you also don't want assholes. And I think it's a little different from boys and girls. I've talked about this with a lot of people. Like, I think raising a girl in today's society is like, it's hard, right? I'd rather my daughter be overconfident, like borderline arrogant, than have no self confidence. I think for a boy, it's probably he. They're just not. My son's just naturally confident. Ask him; he'll tell you he's the best at anything. And so it's not something I worry about. Like my daughter, I definitely see that, and we try to instill that in her. And it's hard, right? Like you can't tell somebody to be confident. It's just something that happens. Actually, as I was getting her excused for a lot of absences from school, that was one of the things I justified for ski training and skiing development and skipping a lot of school this winter. It was like, wow, this will teach her resilience and confidence and all these things. And thought I was going to get a fight from the principal, and she was like, "No, it's great." So I got it, but yeah, it's probably a balance of a lot of things that are kind of juxtaposed that don't necessarily always fit very well together. I don't know. How about you? What do you think of as what are the big 3 for
Mm.
you?
Definitely resilience. I feel like the mindset, no matter your physical capability,
Yeah.
it's like that feels like if there's only one thing, that's a fun exercise to boil it down to. Like if there was only one thing, well, I think it'd be two things actually, even though I'd want to get it to one, it'd be resilience and resourcefulness, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I like those two. Maybe I'd add like a kindness or, some sort of social, humanity to it.
Aptitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Because
said.
I wanted just going to make them enjoy life more and hopefully be easier to get along with. But yeah, resilience it's a big one. I think you think about how do you raise kids that are tough, hardworking, not spoiled, all that stuff. But yet there's a lot of juxtaposition with that, right? Like, then how do you give them all these things and give them opportunities and then, be like, well, make sure you are grateful for it and know how well, um, but I've seen it done. I've seen a lot of people, that have it and I've seen a lot of people that don't. And I feel bad for the people who don't, right? It's just, you you don't have resilience. Like, I don't care who you are. Life's hard at times.
I think thinking about having a big-hearted human as a kiddo, teaching them to have a heart and be loving and compassionate, but also fierce. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's so difficult to narrow it down to one or two or five.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm curious on this list that you gave me. Strong, independent, kind, courteous, and it kept going. But what other you got skiing as a realm to teach them maybe independence and resilience and how to how to have fun, how to
Yeah.
play, all
Yeah.
these. Where else in 5 to 7 years, you've got a 5-year-old boy and a
Yeah.
7-year-old girl. You've got plenty of other places, I suspect, knowing your world, where you've had opportunities to teach them and bestow these characteristics. Any other great examples of opportunities that you've seized or things that were messy, but then allowed you to?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the ones that we're doing right now, right, is their kids are figuring out like their social interactions with each other. And we just had there's 4 boys, including my son and my daughter, um, at our place up in the mountains this weekend. And, um, the boys just run like crazy but they fight, they argue. And then my daughter has to kind of like engage and interact with that too. And, um, like we had a long conversation with some of the other parents about like, they're in these, my kids are in the stage where they are developing those, like, how do I deal with a bully? How do my son and his friend are arguing about, who knows? They probably had 1,000 arguments this weekend. Um, when do I step in? When do I like stay back? And I think our generation, helicopter parents, like you just want to step in and like fix them and show them. But I think a lot of it is like, don't give them some space to try to work some of those things out, to try to work out somebody was mean to me. And, you know, does dad need to step in and make that other kid apologize? Dad, sometimes that's what you need to do. And sometimes you need to, and it's hard, right? Like I saw a bunch of boys be mean to my daughter. There's a couple boys I wanted to go plant in the snow for a little while, upside down. Um,
Charlie
but
cartoon.
yeah, she need, like people are going to be mean to her. Kids are mean, right? You think back to our formative years and like the, some of the teases that I made of friends or other people I went to school with. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have that back. Like that was so mean. They're going to deal with that. So I think preparing them for the world, part of it is trying to teach them the right tools, trying to give them chances to practice it, whether with you or other circumstances. And then, letting them fail. I think yeah, think about like how much you learn. Like failures are great teachers. They're not always fun when you're learning the lesson. And in my case, I had to learn that lesson like 7 or 8 times before it really starts to stick or even maybe register. But that's something you got to give your kids space to do. And with my kids, we're just getting into that. Like they have to, they're going to lose sporting events. They're going to have friends be mean to them. They're going to have all those things. And um, I can't always be there as much as I want to be. So, starting to build some of that coping mechanism and struggle and you figure it out. It's hard. My daughter was doing homework last night. Definitely math problem that she knows how to do, but she was just tired and frustrated and, throwing the pencil across the room. And I was like trying to calm it down. I don't know if I did it right, but it was like, man, like, okay, you can just go, like, let's just stop. You can go to bed. Let's try it with a fresh mind. You'll do okay. But like, that could have helped her. It could have been like, do this, this, this. I'm not going to do that. It's not, she's got to figure that out.
The word struggle, I feel like there's got to be this weird tension. And my little dude, he's, he struggled for the first couple days, but now he's a champ. But he's not faced with adversity yet. It's like he's still in that age of innocence.
Yeah, yeah.
But thinking about the tension of knowing that struggle is so inherently valuable and it's inevitable. You can't, right? So, and yet as a parent wanting to solve their problem or, mediate or remedy the struggle and how are you
I'll give you another
right now? It sounds like you've got a good, you're managing it well.
I have no idea if I'm managing it well or bad. Like I'm aware of it and like consciously trying to do it. It's
my question is, when did the struggles begin to show up? At what age did you start seeing, oh, that's a struggle worth letting them tussle with on their own?
I don't know. I feel like it's around 4 or 5, like kind of that kindergarten age. My kids have been like daycare early. So like they've had a lot of the socialization and, interacting with other kids. And, but it's when you start to give them enough leeway where like they can go downstairs in the basement and play by themselves, or they can be, playing a game and you're not like watching them. Right. I think at 2 years old, if your son's still crawling around on the floor or playing around on the floor, running around, like you probably are very close because, he doesn't know if he should put that thing in his mouth and swallow it. Your son tried that. And, then when you can kind of take your attention away a little bit, that's when it starts. And then I think it's only going to get worse where it's, more and more leeway for them. Right. And hopefully their mistakes get fewer, but they're not mistakes, but like, I feel like as they grow up, the challenges with them get fewer, but they get larger. It's like, okay, before I was worried about you putting everything in your mouth, or falling down the stairs or like everything. And then you kind of shift to like, okay, I'm not worried about that stuff, but are you going to draw on my wall? Are you going to, let the dog out and run in the street? Are you going to run into the street? And then it goes to like, okay, I'm not worried about those things. Are you going to be kind to your friends? Are you going to steal their toys? And then it goes to, I don't know where it goes after that because it's kind of where I'm at, but like, are you kind in school when I'm not there? How do you behave when mom and dad aren't there when you're at a friend's house? Do you have good manners? Are you respectful? Are you, a leader? We talk to our kids about that a lot. Like, how do you, in the face of bad behavior around your peers, how do you stand up for what you think is the right thing? Whether it's, I don't want to do that, I'm going to go do this, or, hey, that's not a nice way to talk to somebody else. that would be you talk about legendary kid. If my kid was the one who was like, well, one, I hope they're not the kid who's picking on other kids. That would be something that'll be a problem in the Nelson household. And we'll work very hard to make sure that's not the case. And if, either my kids turn out to be a bully, like that'll be dealt with. That would be bad for them. Cause the consequences would be really bad. And, you know, hopefully they're not the kid get picked on either. That's any harder as a parent. Like, how do you do that? We're kind of back to that, like resilience, or do I need to step in? My kids were legendary in like the near future. It'd be like somebody's picking on somebody else on the playground, and my kid has enough guts to step up and be like, hey, that's not right. Like that would be, that's my near term kind of dream about how they would behave. I have no idea if that's exactly what they do, but that's what we talk about is how do we be a leader and show people the right way to behave.
How many
So,
times a week do you feel like the conversation? I'm just sensing
oh,
it's ongoing for even in their 20s and 30s. They're going to be supporting their leader capabilities.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how often is it? Hey, that's a leadership opportunity. That is
And,
too. Is it daily?
well, yeah. I mean,
Daily.
sometimes there's like really pointed ones where you like refer back to that one. But I think they have those opportunities daily for sure. Do they take them? Do they tell us about them? Right? Like
Mm.
my kids are in school for a lot of part of the day and they don't know exactly, Um, and then here's another good dynamic I was trying to get in there. Like I noticed this with both my wife and I, um, way easier for me to let my son struggle, than my daughter. Like my daughter asks for something and I'm like robot programmed to like, yes, dear, here you go. Like I don't even think about it. I just do it. My wife is the same way with my son. Um, and so there's that dynamic too of like, I have to give her more opportunities for that, be maybe a little less protective and maybe be a little kinder to my son at times. Not kinder, but like, supportive or whatever. Like I'm totally fine to be like, you want to kick and scream and have a temper tantrum? You know, see you later. I'm walking away. My daughter, I'm like way more, even though she's older, I'm way more like, okay. And it's the opposite with my wife. So, I think
Yeah.
there's some that like daddy's girl, mommy's boy type dynamics that like we also have to work through. It's also one of the ones that like you fight with your spouse about a lot, right? Because when you provide struggle, how you provide that, like the other spouse might be like, no, 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 no. And giving her enough space to do that, and her giving me enough space to try and do that for kids is, I think, you know, just another axis on the ever changing plane that it is to be a parent to little legends, hopeful legends, emerging legends.
Emerging legends. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Raising emerging legends. I was thinking about Marnie and you, and did you, as two people coming together, building a life together, building family together, and then knowing enough about the two of you in terms of your professions and your style and so forth. Was there a time where you kind of sat down and you're like, all right, here's our parenting philosophy. Here's our plan. Did you formulate it to some degree and get alignment? Or did that kind of work itself out over time?
No, I mean, I think it's still working itself out over time. We never sat down and hatched a master plan. You know, I'm glad we didn't. One, because it would have been wrong and immediately wrong and off track like day one, hour one.
It wouldn't be fair to set an intention.
I mean, I think we are constantly talking about that, right? Like that's, how much do you and Mackenzie talk about Leo?
Well, right now,
Number one topic, right?
yeah, I mean, we're talking about him all the time, but
Yeah.
right now we're just almost adoring him and admiring.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once
Like,
he gets
as
into,
he grows and
yeah,
things start to change, like we're constantly talking about how did they behave there? What was how awesome did they do on this one thing? This was so incredible to see. This really frustrated me. Um, I didn't like the way you handled that. It's, you know, constant. Uh, usually for, usually it's a good communication and conversation. We pretty quickly get to a alignment. Sometimes we disagree. And, you know, I just have to think about it for a while and then I figure out how right my wife is.
Yeah, when she listens to this, she'll appreciate that.
Yeah, she will. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an ever evolving dialogue.
About it. Give me an idea on, where you inherently learn to be a great father. I suspect there's some takeaways from your dad, other figures in your life. Yep.
Yeah. Um, Cool. I think, yeah, your dad's kind of like one role model. Friends, dads, uh, or others. I think those are probably the two biggest, right? Like my dad was pretty hard on me. Uh, my dog's bouncing around over here. My
Uh,
good example, like coming home from soccer games, like my friends would be like, "Oh man, we were in steamboat, so we'd have to drive everywhere for a couple hours for a game." My dad would just like dissect the game the whole way back. Like, you could have done this, could have done that, could have, and they've always really pushed me. Um, it's given me a pretty healthy work ethic, and are there times where he could have been maybe more supportive and less driving? Maybe, probably, I probably follow that. Probably follow him most closely of like maybe a more strict father than I thought I was going to be, and expect my kids to be able to work hard and try hard. Try, I think, is a big one for us right now. Like, you have to try. You-
mhm.
if you try and ask for help, we will help you. But I'm not going to put your shoes on for you. And if that takes 20 minutes of you crying, okay, like you got to try. You got to try your. You got to try to ski at run. Um, you've got to try to calm yourself down before we intervene. And then I saw a lot of, I think, good example. I was pretty lucky, I think, and then I saw a lot of really good examples, and some bad examples. Growing up in Steamboat Springs, like different now, but like way back in the day, there was a lot of middle class. And then there were some families that were like extremely wealthy and some families that were not. And I saw definitely on the wealthy side, I saw some really not so great behaviors out of kids that turned into be, spoiled and um, just not be able to cope because they kind of got everything. And then I saw one family that they had everything, but yet like they were super down to earth, and they were, just three girls and they all drove the same crappy Subaru. Definitely didn't need to, but like that must have been, I don't know if it actually was, but that seemed like a point of parenting to me that I was, oh, like they're teaching their kids. They all had jobs, like they all had hard jobs, not like, oh, go be, whatever, go sit at a desk and today TikTok all day. And yeah, you have a job. Like, no, they had like hard, get yourself dirty every day kind of jobs in high school. And I was always really impressed by that. And I think they ended up to be, I don't actually know them all that well, but like when I knew them, they were really good people. They were, super popular, but also super kind and, um, they had all this opportunity, but also super down to earth. So that's a good example of one I just picked up. And I saw other people whose like parents were super strict. Another friend, dad was incredibly strict. Like I had to call him, sir or like Mister. a high school student, even though he's one of my best, and his mom was like a super babying. So like, it was just a weird dynamic that he ended up not being able to cope that well for a while. And I think part of, you know, ultimately you got to own all your own things, but like, there's certainly the ones that they should either give you a lot of the tools or, help you to identify that maybe you don't have them and you need to go get them. So yeah, I don't know. What were yours? You're a bit of a Renaissance man. I feel like you probably have,
Gosh.
podcasts and like, ancient Sanskrit texts teaching you to be a great dad.
Oh man, I don't know about that. I mean, my dad was definitely he at this point in my life, he's one of my best buddies, one of my best friends. He was hard on me, and I could picture my dad's face right now when I frustrated him, and he would terse his lips and get intense, and uh, I definitely pushed the envelope with my folks, and
Yeah.
I think as a kid, you're learning what the boundaries of things are in different realms, right? And
Sure.
so that I was a bit of a rascal, you might say, and that prompted my parents to be, you know, not heavy-handed, but pretty pretty hard on me in some ways
Mm.
because it's like the law of physics for every action there's an equal or opposite reaction, but
The
at the
parents
same
thing that
time,
may not be true. Sometimes there's an equal and opposite overreaction, from
fair.
either you or the kid.
Yeah, that's true, but, it's like they were still very loving and supportive and, champions of my interests and so forth, so I feel very fortunate that my folks were who they were and who they are and have nothing but positive things to say about them. I'm like, my only one complaint sometimes is the interest that I look back on having that kind of fizzled, that now I wish I, maybe would've continued. I'm like, "Why didn't you push me harder there?" Right?
Yeah.
And they were making their own assessments. Who knows? But the other key figures in my world, I've got my dad's 3 brothers, my uncles, all great dudes. And each 2 of them have kids and one of them doesn't. But father figures nevertheless, uncles that were stewards of my upbringing, and we got to see them all the time, and they taught me adventure and storytelling. I can picture my Uncle George, although this was only, like, within the last decade as adults. We were canoeing through the Boundary Water canoe area in Minnesota, and you're typically, it's 2 people in a canoe, and so we were there with my folks and my brother and, his family and whatnot, but my Uncle George and I basically spent 4 or 5 days just talking, and the tales that he has and he just almost his perspective on the world and how versed he was in all these things, it just fascinated me. So, and then I can think of the gentleman who married Mackenzie and I last year. His name is Dick Spees. It's actually Charles Richard Spees, I think is his full name. But he's he's just an on. We called him Uncle Dick and his wife Becky, Aunt Becky, as kids.
Yeah.
Dick and Becky, Uncle Dick and Aunt Becky, and he's a figure. He's a giant dude, character of a man, and his I feel like if I'm embodying anything about him, it's how, uh, he's very his delivery, everything about what he says was
Mm.
just so profound and, like, concise and I don't know, it just had a resonance to it.
Yeah.
So, I've had a lot of great men in my life that have,
Yeah.
you know, led by example, and I feel fortunate to have those, and then I definitely saw some dads, I suppose, in high school where I was like, "Yeah, that's gotta be hard," or
Yeah.
that's a distant parent, so I'm emulating my father figures rather than using them as a contrast to guide me.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think we're both fortunate, right? That good. And I think that's the one, like, if you could point to one thing where you're like, oh man, that's going to be hard. Like being there as a dad, especially for me, like one of the hardest things is like, I don't know, my kids want to play some game or some like thing that I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like doesn't, this isn't intellectually stimulating to me, or it's like, it physically hurts because you guys just want to like hit me with bats, or, I'm tired from work and I don't want to, but to me, it's like you put in that time, um, and you put in that like action. Cause I mean, I don't know how you feel, but like my wife, I think will always have a connection. She's like the best parent I've ever seen. It's like naturally good at it.
Mm.
She's not perfect, Mark, for when you watch this, you're not. But like, it's work sometimes, right? Like sometimes you are, okay, yep. And then perfect for sure. Like there's certainly times where I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Dad's tired or bored or whatever it is. Dad wants to watch football, or dad just, wants to do anything else. But I think just investing in that, like the more you can, it seems like it always pays good dividends. And, or at least I hope so. We'll see. We'll see what
How fast is the last 5 to 7 years gone for you? Does it feel like a blink of an eye, or has it been a slow rollout?
both really. I think um, the best one, it's a song or something. Um, Long days, fast years. Because there are those days, especially, you've gone through some of those, they got more ahead of you, where you're, man, that was a hard day. I didn't get any sleep, crying, fighting, fits, tantrums, all that stuff. There's always rays of sunshine, right? Like another one of my, I didn't have kids yet. He kind of told me, it was like, it's the best thing I ever did as a human. Best thing I'll ever do. And I was like, yeah, whatever. He was definitely right, but he was also the one who coined the phrase of like, my kids are 51% filling my life with purpose and 49% like draining it all from me.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Not
Right on
always
right on
yeah,
the fringe.
right on the fringe. And, there are definitely days where it's way past the inverse of that. So those were I was like, oh yeah, all the time I think back on those. Like, it is definitely the best thing I've ever done and will ever do. And I'm so happy it did it, but also there's times where we should have done this. I don't think I ever say that, but there's definitely times where it's like, wow, this is hard.
This is hard. This is a lot. Well, with that said, I'm thinking like for a new dad listening to this, someone who's about to be a new dad, or they're just fresh like myself,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you feel like everyone forgot to tell you, this one thing about being a father that you just learned? Like, why didn't anybody give me a heads up about that?
Yeah.
Is there something that strikes you?
I mean, the first one that came to mind was like, I wasn't ready for, it probably synthesized down to like, I wasn't ready for the responsibility of being a dad, which for me was a lot of anxiety. When my first was born, we had a bunch of medical issues. So there's some of that there, but not with my kid, like with you, but, with my, wife. But like I would lie awake, and I say this, like, I never really cared if I lived or died, not in like a fatalistic way, but like every time I got on an airplane, it was like, you know what? I've lived a great life. If this one goes down, I'll be happy. It's been a fun life. Had tons of adventure, met amazing people, lived, I've loved, I've done, all those things. Um, so if this one goes down, okay. And as soon as I had a kid, it's like, okay, now I really care. I got to make it back. This thing can't go down because I got to get back to my daughter and I got to be a dad. and this is the most amazing feeling in the world. It's the biggest responsibility, and well, gosh, I want her to have this feeling too, which means, shoot, now I care about like her having a kid, and I'll love that kid, and I want that kid, and like my whole line, like, oh crap, there's thousands of years of Nelsons coming after me, hopefully that I'll want to have happen and occur, and that didn't exist before, and so I would like lay in bed like with high anxiety, trying to think about how I solve existential problems like nuclear war and, you know, AI and things that like I can't solve those things, but I actually had a lot of sleepless, like just laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, like stress and anxiety about that. It took probably 6 or 9 months for that to subside a little bit. And it probably, again, I cannot solve those things. I can probably maybe do a small part to help in some ways. But like I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with not being able to control everything for the world. But that was probably my my world like saying, "Hey, you had no idea the responsibility that you just inherited." Right. I think the other one I heard was you never know how much your parents love you till you have kids. And I just remember having that feeling like the first 24 hours. Spoke my daughter, like looking across the room at my parents in the hospital, being like, "Oh, you love me this much." Oh my gosh, it was never even close to a two-way street. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a jerk. I love this kid way more than I've ever loved. I think you rebuild a bond with your parents having kids because you're seeing the world with the eyes that you've never seen before. So I think those were two like just had a kid, very real. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Um, Lessons that I got to learn for myself. I don't lay in bed and think about like, well, I do lay in bed and think of AI is going to take over the world, but not in like oh my gosh, I have to like, you know, somehow figure out how to become an all powerful demigod so I can stop it. I still want to become an all powerful demigod because it sounds fun, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. So those are two. And then I think another one is that everybody's parenting styles are different. And it's very interesting. Sometimes points of conflict, sometimes points of alignment and new friendships with other adults that you're going to bounce off of. You know, Having kids definitely like changes some people. Oh, I got another good, this is just a good point of advice and I'll get back. Kid joins your life, not the other way around. Like the people who are like, oh, we have to be home for this time at nap and then this has to happen and this happened. Like my wife and I did sit down before that and we were like, we are not going to be those parents. Like, we are still going to go out and we're going to take the kids with us. They're going to be part of our life. Um, and that I think brought some sanity. I wouldn't have done, and my wife certainly wouldn't have done well, like living on my kids' schedule only. You have to be mindful of it, but um, that was a really good lesson. But then back to the point of like it changes your social circles and the people you interact with and how you interact with them. And there's a lot of things to learn out there. And sometimes it's similar to your question of like, what were the people you watched as a kid and that, what were your influences as a father? I think those continue, right? Like I watch you as a dad. Oh, what's he doing? How's he, and I watch other people and sometimes I'm really impressed and sometimes I'm really horrified. I don't think that'll stop. Every time I go to the airport now, I like study the families with kids. How am I gonna how am I gonna react when I'm that parent?
Funny that you said like the responsibility of becoming a dad and having a kid. I appreciated it conceptually,
Mhm.
as Mackenzie was pregnant and we
Yeah.
were anticipating things. I'm like, I get this conceptually. I know this is going to be I'm embarking on a massive new endeavor,
Yeah.
but it really, even, even though it's tangible, you can feel your wife's belly and you're like, okay, there's
Yeah.
definitely a human being in there. It wasn't as tangible for me as it was for her until I'm
Yeah.
holding it.
Yeah.
And then it's a bit of a forcing function that just smacks you across the face.
Yeah.
And the concept of being a dad was one thing, and then the reality was a completely different.
Yeah. And I think generally a better reality, right? Than
Yeah,
what
no doubt.
you read about, but like a whole bunch of other things, um, that the gravity of it's bigger than you probably imagine. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well said, the gravity, and especially early on with my experience in the first few moments of
Yeah. Yours was,
Leonidas' life, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm a father, maybe." He's, like, about to die right there. Lifeless and breathless for a few moments, I'm just like it was this weird experience where I was like, "There's no way this is the outcome. There's no way." And, the I felt like fatherhood was almost this fleeting thing for me for a few moments, for
yeah.
minutes, hour, and I don't know.
That'll
Ch
probably feed how you're a dad, right? Like that'll probably give you a perspective that not a lot of other people. Um, can we jointly agree that if you're a dad or your dad to be watching this, deliver in the hospital
Mm,
or very,
depends.
very, very close to the hospital? There's a lot of things that can go wrong that
Yeah.
are not planned. Have the backup plan ideally there or so close that it's
Yeah.
feasible.
Yeah, it was a massive reframe for sure, and I remember thinking, "Gosh, I wonder how much I'm taking for granted." Like, that actually struck me in the moment, like, I'm never gonna take anything for granted again. And now that everything is softened and settled, I'm back to probably taking things for granted, just to be honest about. But it shifted me
For sure.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then you said something about how you don't realize how much your parents loved you. Like, I'm looking at my mom and dad, both my mom's approaching 70, my dad's 72, and my mom's got some health challenges, that worry us and worry her, and I know now, not I'll never know exactly how she feels, of course, but I can imagine more clearly when she looks at me and that I had a kid and that I got married
Yeah.
and my dad too, that the meaning that they see in that and the joy and it makes it just reveals it to me more than ever before. And I
Yeah.
and I this new it just
Being
reframes
behind the
things.
curtain in a way you'd never, like, thought you would, right? You didn't even know there was a curtain there, and you
Yes,
go back and you're like, "Oh, oh, wow.
exactly.
This is, you know, hopefully all good." It's all mostly all good for me. It is all good.
Yeah.
And then I
Little
think one of the things you like, that time mhm, podcast time is fleeting comment, right? Like, but you do see that in your parents as they age and as your kids grow up super fast, you're like, man, this doesn't last forever. I think you're probably just getting this stage right now where it's like, oh, we had all these cute baby clothes that like, oh, you're gonna have all this time to wear them. And then you're like,
Nope.
you're a monster of a baby. You're like, oh, you never even wore that. Like you outgrew an entire wardrobe in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Or skipped one.
Cute. Okay. That was fast. That was, not as much time as I thought I was going to have. Dang it. So, I think that's one of those, like, you see your parents aging, at the same time you see your, like, life and your kids just accelerating. It's, "Ooh, okay." You do take it probably we all take it too much for granted, but you do have, I do have those moments occasionally where I'm just, my daughter's giving me last night, my daughter made me a Valentine thing. She just went to her room and made that, came out and just gave it to me, Daddy Valentine's. Just remember this moment forever. Never let go of it. Never let go of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I cannot wait for my little dude to be able to hug me this morning. I put his arms around my neck. He's just still flailing around a bit. He'll grab, he can now consciously reach for my beard. He's still a little, wandery with his hands, but I cannot wait.
Give that another week or two and he'll be like,
yeah, he'll get a hold of it. And then I'm like, okay. And then eventually he calms down, but he's grabbing our hair and our jackets and, my chest hair a little. It's like, I kind of like it. It's like,
when I had the beard, my kids thought it was the funniest thing in the world to pull as hard as they could, because I would say, that is universal. I think universal humor for children is dads hurting themselves. Saying, "Oh," and before you know it, your son will be like basically trying to attack you.
yes.
That's how my morning started.
Just wrestling matches.
With my 5-year-old crawling up next to me on the bed and then coming off the top ropes onto my face.
Feels like,
yeah. Oh, okay. This is only going to work for another year or two before you could actually really hurt me. But it is fun to wrestle with.
I can't wait for that. I've got 3 little boy nephews and a niece for a 4th, and we wrestle. Even the little niece, she'll do a little wrestling, but, which is adorable. But it's the boys just love to roughhouse. I come over to my brother's house or my dad's house, and my brother will come over and they're like, "Hey, can we wrestle?" Like wrestling with the uncle. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So to do that with my son, I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. And you said something about clothing, just growing out so fast. I wonder for any new dads listening, I bet there's like the guy version of planning for your kids' wardrobes and how you're going to approach all the gear you need. And then the mom's version of that I don't know. Mac has been pretty, we kept things simple. We're almost letting the need for something prompt us getting it versus in advance getting everything you think you might possibly need and then not using half of it. But when it comes to clothes, it's like my brother gave us a bunch of hand-me-downs and a couple other folks have given us hand-me-downs. You're going to go through them so quick. And I feel like why is there
hand-me-downs are, I mean, we had a bunch of hand-me-downs. Those were
clutch.
I mean, I'd say both a clutch. Well, there's 2 things. Here's a lesson on hand-me-downs. Hopefully the other people have gone through it and not given you all their hand-me-downs. We had both of my wife's sisters hand-me-downs that went from one, our kids are the youngest, so like the first family to the second family to us, plus whatever the second family accumulated. I don't think they actually like went through them all. So like we got all of it. It's just an unlimited amount of junk, toys too. And so hand-me-downs are awesome. Hopefully the person giving you the hand-me-downs has like done some sorting. Otherwise you're just like basically taking somebody else's,
baby junk.
Hand-me-downs, and there's a lot of trash involved in that.
We definitely culled our hand-me-downs. And it's a little bit with style. I was like, okay, I don't know if he's not going to wear that or that.
I think less is more.
Less is more.
Approach would be, our family, my wife especially, is not. Our kids, we went and got everything, and then like doubles of everything. I felt like there's more. There is more stuff than I could have ever imagined, and it does not seem to be shrinking as much as I try to,
to minimize,
get rid of, give away, say no to at the beginning. The stuff is growing faster than I thought imaginable, and there's more than I thought imaginable. So,
it is fascinating how much stuff from
Yeah.
a marketplace standpoint, the business opportunity of
Oh my God. Yeah. Some of the
tchotchkes and
things the people are like, oh, this is something they'll treasure forever. And you're like, they played with it for 5 minutes.
or just the little gizmos and gadgets and
Yeah.
things to supposedly make parenthood easier or to make
Oh,
childhood enjoyable. And you're like, well, that I don't know. They could have lived without that. And what were we doing in the caveman days? What were kids doing?
yeah, exactly. But,
T- t-
the stroller that bounces and sings and puts him back to sleep, if that works once, you're like, I was worth it, I think.
for
It'll,
like
it'll,
$1,500, 2,000
yeah,
bucks.
it'll be in my garage for the next 6 years, but, it'll be, and clothes are, I mean, my son grew 5 inches in the last, I think it's 9 months. He went from like kind of still like having some of his baby fat and this like chubby fat little to this like lanky boy. He has a six pack. And all his pants almost overnight were like high water flood pants. It was just, wow. Um, yeah, kids' clothes, you will go through a lot. And now they're at the stage where they're not only they're outgrowing them, they're destroying. Like, I don't think my kids have many pairs of pants that don't have holes in. My mom used to stitch like different colored patches. So I'd have like blue sweatpants with like a red and a green patch. Like, it must look ridiculous. Or maybe she was just like trying to get me to slow down. My wife's like, can't believe you pull out a new pair of pants. I'm like, honey, he's just having fun. It's just having, like, that's awesome. Go put a hole in another pair of pants, son. I'll buy you another pair. Don't worry about it. Go have more fun.
No, you're right. They're hard. They're not tempered in their use of things at all. So
Yeah.
toys and clothes and I'm
Yeah.
just imagining these
They are
times.
rough on all things, houses, cars,
Yeah.
you know, eh, eh, anything, backpacks, anything that they have exposure to, they put through the ringer, and use it in a good way, I think. But definitely it's like, I'll go look in my back of my truck. Oh my God, what happened back here? Because we're only back here for like 20 minutes.
Just
Ton of-
hold in every little pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, this is a bit of a uh, kind of a hard left or right of a question, but I'm curious. It's one thing to be a great dad to your kiddos, but how did you invest in your romantic relationship with Marnie early on? I mean, it is such a shift for the new dads out there.
Yeah.
At least my experience. Mac and I still adore each other
Yeah.
and love each other, but all hands on deck for Leonidas. And that's not going to change for a long while. And, but incorporating a relationship or,
Yeah.
redeveloping a romance, perhaps. I mean, how did that look and feel, or any thoughts on fostering that?
I mean, I think it's something you got to continue to work at. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, and I don't know if we do a great job of it. Like, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. And we're kind of like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Like, big gestures, I'm going to make dinner. That's not, it used to be like, oh, here's gifts, flowers, and an event, and this, that. Like, so I think it does like it has to, right? Like, it has to tamp a lot of that down. And for me, it like gave us a whole nother, probably now the dominant part of our relationship of like, we're partners in raising these kids. Watching my wife do that has made me love her more and appreciate her more. And, but there's, you have to find your time. For a while, we were like Thursday night, date night was like, whether that's, hey, we're going to plan to, not work and watch a movie and drink a bottle of wine tonight, or one of us going to make dinner, or we got something planned. I think that's a good strategy, just to like have a plan. We didn't always make it, right? Like, it wasn't a perfect thing. Sometimes you're like, oh God, I'm exhausted. Kids didn't sleep last night. Thursday night, date night's canceled. But because we had it, if we hit every other, we still had, and I'd say we were really fortunate. We still are really fortunate that we have a lot of family around that can help. So we were still able and still are still able to maintain pretty active social lives. So if you got family, leverage that and go out, you know, spend time as a husband and wife. Um, if you don't, find a babysitter. I've got some friends that don't have a lot around, and um, when they're like, "Oh yeah, we haven't had a date in like 18 months," what? How? What are you talking about? That's insane.
But I
Um,
think that reveals how
yeah,
it showcases how easy it would be to let a
it is.
connection not fall apart, but just be neglected or set aside because there's so much. I'm just sensing this right now with my world. There's so much going on for us that you must be intentional. You have to be intentional. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah. I think that you summed it up exactly right there. Be intentional in some way, and know that it's not always going to work, but like continue to do that. Because if you don't, then for sure it's gonna, you know, the opportunity for just things happenstance happening goes. I mean, I'd say it's even hard to fight sometimes, right? Because like you're like, we want to finish this argument, but like we got to take care of the kids right now. um, we'll finish this argument later, right? Like all the things that you need to do as a couple to be healthy, right? Arguing's part of that sometimes. Um, you got to find time and be intentional about. I think intentional is the right word.
and early. I mean, I'm in the thick of it with, or Mac is in the thick of it. I don't know how you want to think about it, but I mean, her world has changed
Yeah,
in so many ways beyond mine. I mean, yes, I'm now a dad and I have a kiddo to take care of, but I mean, her body, her hormones, the chemicals racing through her body, and uh, her time. I mean, she's breastfeeding Leonidas, so she's committed to him, and
yeah,
her obligations and duties are just more. They've transformed, and on
yeah,
top of that, she's trying to understand who she is now.
yeah,
And as as I think the father in the situation, the bond and connection we have, the romance we have is different now. I mean, I look at her and I'm in awe of her and attracted to her in a completely new way.
yeah,
And yet, making time say physically or intimately is just not it's not on the top of the list like it could have been 2 years ago.
yeah, yeah,
So there's a lot of changes that I'm just trying to go with the flow with and understand, and some are frustrating, some are challenging, and some are
yeah.
beautiful. It's just a
I
way.
found like the it's all the stuff, like the mom guilt to sum it all up. Like every mom's trying to be the best possible mom they can be, and that is you know, it is impossible to be a perfect mom. I think, but yet it seems like at least my wife was. That's what she was striving for, and the pressure that she was putting on herself, and sometimes still does. And I think she's an incredible mom. We actually had a lot of time. Like I'd be like, "You're such a good mom." She's like, "I don't want you to tell me you're a good mom. I want you to like help." She's like, "I don't want you to tell me I'm a good mom when we're having a challenge." Like, yeah, I was like, okay. Um, and then at least for me, I try to be the voice of reason sometimes of like, okay, like some of this is I'm outside looking in and I'm telling you, you probably objectively know this, but you're subjecting yourself to, your own pressures that you want to put on yourself. Like, relax, let some of that go. Even if you don't, like, you need to hear it so that you can process that. And I think there's a lot of space, like at your stage in those first 6 9 months, really, like until the kid can start to interact. Like the bond between kid and mom is super strong, and dad's kind of just there. You get to have a lot of fun time, and you get to, but like nowhere near the level they're at. Right. And, your job is to be more helpful, do as much as you can, support. And, in those stages, it probably is your job to be like, hey, let's do something normal. Let's remember that we're still adults that are married that like can go out to dinner
Yeah.
or, not everything has to be about the kid. You're certainly going to, you're not, I doubt people are going to be worried about not losing them. Like, oh yeah, we just neglect the kid, right? Like that's a different problem. I think most people are like, they totally neglect themselves and their marriage, and you trying to give it a little bit more time. And as the dad, that's probably something you have the mental capacity to do. Dragging your wife into it, I don't know, probably easier or better for some people. But that's probably something you can take on as the dad to be like, yeah, I can handle this part. Right.
Yeah. Lighten the load is what's coming to mind, just,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can't say I can't breastfeed him, or I can't necessarily coddle him as much as she at least has. She's been off work for a while. She's about to go back to work. I'm fully in my workspace during the work week, but to lighten the load in different places, to seize the opportunity to lighten that load has been, the approach, I suppose. And
Yeah. And I think it's as much as a lot of ways you can do, right? You can't do the physical breastfeeding and the kids just, like the joke, I think it's still the joke. It's like mom, dad, everyone else.
that's the truth, for good reason. For
Yeah.
good reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might shift one day. It's like,
Yeah. Maybe I find that hard to believe, but maybe.
yeah, maybe. All right. Ultimate and final question for you. And earlier you said, I hope there's 1,000 years of Nelsons.
Yeah.
Right? I love that idea. 1,000 years of Nelsons. The lineage of Wylie Nelson. So picture this. Your kids now are sharing with the next generation of Nelsons stories about Wylie Nelson. What are you known for at that point? What do you hope you're known for that they're sharing with future generations? What are the 2 or 3 key things that you feel like, I've accomplished my mission if I'm known for this, this, and this?
Um, well, I guess one, and I think, is like live in it, live an interesting life, go on adventures, challenge yourself. My kids, uh, they love to hear dad's stories. At least one night a week, it's like the bedtime story of, dad, tell us about the time that this happened. Tell us about this ski crash, or the time you almost got eaten by an alligator, or this or that. And I hope am able to continue to tell them interesting stories, that they will go on and tell, their kids. I think that's a great way to connect generations and, show them like the example of what you want them to be. I hope that they are resilient and they are
What are
able.
they saying about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope they're saying the same thing, right? That like dad was, maybe independent. Dad made dad made the world what he made his reality what he wanted his reality to be, and kind of shaped it to what he wanted from his life. Um, positive or negative, but like, that created a positive life for him. So adventurous, kind of shaped his own reality. I don't know. Hopefully they say I'm really funny. Um, Hopefully they have really good, positive memories, like the same way you were talking about your dad, like, even the terse lips, like hopefully they have moments like that they're telling their kids, oh, grandpa would do this or grandpa would do that. Cool. Yeah. I think hopefully they have good examples of what grandpa did that informed how they became, legends themselves.
Right now. Well, my man, I appreciate you exploring the ultimate role with me. It's it's uh it's really fun to hear your story. Even though I know you, it's good to see what
Yeah.
it's like for you to be a dad and to hear your fatherhood perspective. So I appreciate your time and joining me on Whoa Dad Go Dad. In
Yeah.
our next gathering, I want to hear about this time you wrestled an alligator. Is that what happened?
I didn't wrestle. He swam.
All right. Appreciate you. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. See you. There you have it. That's been another episode of Whoa Dad Go Dad. If you like what you're hearing, hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast so you get the future ones, and please spread the word and post this episode to your social networks. That's powerful. Perhaps the best thing you can do is share this directly with a new dad or a soon-to-be dad that you know personally. Let them know you're rooting them on. And indeed, drop a comment and be really a part of this dialogue on fatherhood with me. Let me know in the comments a question you want me to ask other dads, or just some feedback. How does this sound to you? What's helpful? What stands out about these conversations? I would appreciate that intel as I grow Whoa Dad Go Dad. I've got many more episodes to come, and I'm so glad you're here. Looking forward to catching you on the next one.
Whoa, Dad, go Dad, here we go now. Oh yeah, the ultimate roll now.